Rabbina Armenian had grand designs for her clothes, for her life. She was studying fashion in Tehran, was planning to move to Milan to open a boutique, and going by her Instagram account, she was a Clash fan. On Thursday evening, the 23-year-old left college for home, but met a group of friends going to the anti-regime demonstrations that night and decided to accompany them. According to her family, at some point during the protests, the young woman was shot in the head from close range and died instantly. Today we spoke to Rabbina's aunt, Hallie Nouri, and her husband from Norway, where they live.
سرشار از زیبایی و پر از رنگای قشنگ مثل گل زیبا توی خونه آدمون. قلبم داره آتیش میگیره وقتی اون جنازه ها رو اونجا میبینم، وقتی انگشتای کوچولوی روبینا رو یادم میاد به اندازه انقدر بودن، وقتی بدن 40 کیلویش رو یادم میاد که 2 لیوان خون توش نبود و خونش رو ریختن تو خیابون و میدونم این فقط درد ما نیست، این درد همه اونایی که جوونای نازشون رو از دست دادن، گلای خوشگلشون رو از دست دادن.
According to her family, Rabbina is one of hundreds of demonstrators killed by security forces since the demonstrations began 2 weeks ago. An internet blackout has meant the world is only now being drip-fed the horror. Her shooting was just the start of the torture for the family. The regime refused them permission to bury her in their hometown of Kermanshah. They do this to try to stop funerals becoming platforms for protest. So the family were forced to bury her in a different town 4 hours drive away.
اجازه نمیدن به خانواده‌اش که اونجا مراسم تدفین یا مراسم یادبودی براش بگیرن. تحت فشارهای زیاد امنیتی مأمور در خونه‌شون میذارن که نذارن مردم برای همدردی برن پیش خواهرم.
Unlike Rabbina's funeral, the funerals of security personnel are broadcast on state television, used as a stage for pro-regime support. The government has declared 3 days of national mourning. Also in Tehran today, demonstrations in support of Iran's leaders. The regime can still mobilize thousands. This round of protests has become very violent very quickly. As well as hundreds of demonstrators killed, Iranian media is reporting that over 100 security personnel have also died. Iran's foreign minister again blamed foreign influence for the unrest and described the protests as terrorist operations. In response to Donald Trump floating the idea of US military intervention, he said this.
ما خواهان جنگ نیستیم ولی برای جنگ آمادگی کامل داریم. حتی آماده تر از قبل از جنگ قبلی هستیم. در این حال همونطور که بارها گفتم ما برای مذاکره هم آمادگی داریم.
Erful Sultani is 26, due to get married soon. He was arrested at demonstrations near Tehran on Thursday evening. A relative of his spoke to us from Germany today. Samia told us that Iranian police informed the family that he was due to be executed on Wednesday.
همون شب گرفتنشون و به صورت شبانه حکم اعدام بهش دادن و بدون اینکه و هیچ گونه اجازه وکیل گرفتن هم بهش ندادن و دیدار با خانواده فعلا قطع شده، هیچ ارتباطی ندارن، فقط بهش گفتن که به خانواده گفتن که حکم اعدامه و به صورت کاغذی هم هیچ وقت این رو نمیدن به خاطر که این صدا رسانه‌ای نشه در واقع.
This is a pivotal week for Iran. We'll start to get a sense of whether the momentum behind the anti-regime demonstrations is continuing or not. The chilling effect of violent clampdown and a communications blackout will also become clearer. According to Rabbina Armenia's aunt, the reasons her niece took to the streets, though, will stay the same. This her message to Iran's leadership.
ما جوونمون رو از دست دادیم، عزیزمون رو از دست دادیم، گلمون رو پرپر کردیم، ولی نمیتونید صدامون رو خفه کنید. گیرم که کشیدمون، گیرم که هممون رو زندونی کردید، با مغزهامون چی کار میکنید و این خونها یه روزی دامنتون رو میگیره.
The questions that will linger, though, what will Trump actually do next? What stage are behind-the-scenes negotiations at? Trump's stated red line was the mass killing of protesters. That line was passed days ago.
Paraic O'Brien with that report. Well, the White House has just been talking about military options and the chance of diplomacy. Let's go to our US editor, Anushka Astana, outside the White House. Anushka, what have they said?
Well, everyone is trying to find out what the White House might do next. Last night on Air Force One, Donald Trump was very, very clear that there are military options they're looking into. He described them as strong military options. He was asked, should Iran take us seriously? And he almost grumpily replied, look at all the interventions that I've done all over the world. We've talked about this a lot, Matt, the idea that this administration, despite sounding isolationist at the start, has actually intervened all over the place. You named a number of places, strikes in Iran, Iraq, Nigeria, Somalia, Syria and more. So yes, they should take it seriously. We've heard from the Iranian supreme leader about America as well. He's actually talked about deceitful actions of lawmakers here. He actually posted in Russian language on X saying that America needs to be careful not to miscalculate. But as you said, they are also trying to open diplomatic routes of conversation. And Caroline Levitt, the press secretary here, spoke about this within the past hour.
Diplomacy is always the first option for the president. He's told all of you last night that what you're hearing publicly from the Iranian regime is quite differently from the messages the administration is receiving privately. And I think the president has an interest in exploring those messages. However, with that said, the president has shown he's unafraid to use military options if and when he deems necessary. And nobody knows that better than Iran.
So every chance that they will intervene, but it feels different to the past where America was intervening to spread democracy. It feels much more with Donald Trump like they're looking for strategic interests. What do Iran want from America? Well, they want fewer sanctions. What does America want from Iran? Well, some people say to me there are lots of strategic interests there around security, but also this is a very energy-rich country if the politics goes in a different direction. What people will want to know is, does Donald Trump want regime change? Because we've seen in Venezuela that that isn't where we've ended up at the moment.
Indeed. Anushka, thank you very much indeed there. Well, with more on the internet blackout in Iran, here's Kieran.
So, since 8 p.m. local time on Thursday, Iran's internet has been shut down. That's 87 million people disconnected from each other and the rest of the world. The third time the regime has pulled the plug. They also did it after protests in 2019 and 2022. But it's a selective blackout because Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has been prolific on X, for example, for the benefit of a foreign audience mind, since Iranians clearly can't see these posts. Now, as in 2022, Iranians found a way around the shutdown, turning to Elon Musk's SpaceX Starlink network. That's thousands of satellites in low orbit providing internet services to remote areas. And to access it, you need a user terminal. But the Iranian authorities have made it illegal to connect to Starlink, so using these devices is highly dangerous in a regime which punishes dissent with death. And yet, Iranian officials have said they believe there are tens of thousands of Starlink terminals across Iran. The majority of information protesters are getting out of Iran since Thursday night is being transmitted via Starlink, it's thought. But there are reports the regime has even managed to disrupt Starlink, causing severe connection issues for users in Iran. Now, that's something the Russian military has long been involved with in Ukraine, for example, where it's in something of a technological race with Starlink for the upper hand, and where it's known to deploy trucks that use radio noise to disrupt satellite signals. Now, President Trump weighed in on Iran's blackout yesterday, saying he plans to speak to Elon Musk about restoring internet access in Iran. Matt.
Thanks, Graham. Well, joining me now from Washington is Khosrow Isfahani, a senior analyst for the National Union for Democracy in Iran. Thanks very much for coming on the programme. I mean, there's an awful lot of brutality on the streets, thanks to the regime, and we are getting reports, unconfirmed as yet, that some people are now deciding not to risk their lives and go on the streets. Is the regime and its brutality winning the day?
What has come as a surprise to many observers of Iran developments is that the Iranian people's courage is not subduing after this wave of violence. I personally have been involved with cycles of protests in Iran since 2009. I lived in that country and was on the front lines of every cycle of protests. In every cycle, we were beaten, we were killed, we were arrested, we were tortured, we were raped, we were jailed. But we have returned to the streets. But this time there is one more element. People have found a leader who they are rallying behind, and they are not giving up. They are not relenting. As I walked into this studio, I was reviewing testimonies that we received from Tehran. The person was telling me that every single Iranian that you talk with right now has at least lost one loved one to the regime's brutality. In the past, it was only arrests. The other day, they were dumping dead bodies in front of families and telling them, search between them, find yours, as in find the body of your loved ones.
Okay, now, so you, okay, let me just interrupt there. You mentioned one person in particular. You are referring to Reza Pahlavi, the man who would be crown prince, the son of the late Shah, who has been mentioned on the streets of Tehran. But is he really going to lead, or could he lead the opposition? Could he unify the country behind him? And is there any chance at all of him coming back to Iran to lead even a transitional government?
He has not been mentioned on the streets. People unified are chanting his name. There is this running joke in the country that those who want a republic are chanting that Supreme Leader Khamenei howl louder because Pahlavi is returning. People are united behind him because for 4 decades he has had a unified, uniform message, unchanged, principled, unrivaled. This man has stepped forward to lead Iran during the transition period. He already has gone on the record saying that he is ready to go back to Iran and lead the country during the transition.
Right. So the American government has had beef with the Iranian government for decades, since the revolution. And until recently, there has been no or very little contact with your man, Reza Pahlavi. Has that now changed? I mean, is the administration, the Trump administration, talking to you and him?
One, the United States doesn't have beef with the Islamic Republic. We are dealing with a terrorist state that has claimed thousands of lives beyond the borders of Iran. How many British citizens have been arrested by the Islamic Republic?
Let me press you specifically about the Trump government administration and Reza Pahlavi. Are they talking on a daily basis? Is there a plan in place to put him into power should the regime collapse?
I'm not going to divulge about private communications, whether they have happened or not. The Crown Prince and the administration in Washington are going to announce them when they announce them.
Right. Just in one line, do you want Trump to bomb? Yes or no?
Iranians are on the streets with signs saying Trump help. 2 words, Trump help. That's very clear what people in the country want. Bombing, or whatever you want to call it. We need help.
Khosrow Isfahani, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.